Hello, and a very warm welcome to this episode of Voices of Fostering. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by one of our lovely foster carers, and let's welcome him. Hello, Robert.
Hi.
Hi, Robert. Thank you so much for joining us. It's really great to have you. So, Robert, am I right in saying you have been fostering for a couple of years now? Tell us about your fostering journey, how it all started.
That's right. Well, we've been fostering for a couple of years now, and myself and my husband, we've been wanting to foster for a long time. We've talked about it for a long time. And I'm a teacher. I work with reception age children. So we always kind of thought I would be the perfect primary foster carer. So when we first thought about fostering, I'd only just qualified as a teacher. So I was like, I'm not quite ready to give up my my new career, as it were. And then we got to a point where actually our work situations changed. I'm still a teacher, but David's work situation changed, and he wants to be working from home a lot more. And we thought, why are we thinking that I have to be the primary foster carer? Actually, David can do that. You don't have to have that prior experience working with children, and he's fantastic with children. So we thought we flipped that round, and so that kind of opened it up as soon as we realised that he could do that, and here we are.
I think that's the thing, isn't it, Robert? Because it takes quite a few years sometimes, doesn't it, to come to that decision. It's those little conversations, isn't it? And it's sort of whirring around in your brain and is this the right time? And can you remember what it was like telling your friends and family that this is what you decided to do?
Yeah, they were really supportive. We had lots of people saying things like, "Oh, you'll be fantastic. Oh, that's amazing. That's brilliant." And I think that positivity and that support is really valuable. And I think that as valuable and as continuing as that support is, I think once you actually start doing it, it stops being this amazing, fantastic thing that you're going to be doing, and it's just your life. It's just something that you're then in the middle of doing. And of course, our family and friends have been amazingly supportive. Um, but it just becomes a way of life rather than being this special mystical thing that you're going to be doing. It's just your reality then, and it's a wonderful reality.
And thinking back to the assessment process, Robert, I'm aware that you were with a different agency and you have transferred to the National Fostering Group. But what was the assessment process like? How did you find it? A lot of people say it's therapeutic. How was it for you guys?
We really enjoyed the assessment process. We were actually with a different agency to start with, and we were assessed by a freelance social worker. And it's a bit of a strange story really, because we we were assessed by this social worker, and then he wasn't able to join us for our final panel because he was leaving to become a lecturer in social care. So off he went, and we were given a new supervising social worker to support us through that. So we did that, successful assessment and what have you, and then we became foster carers. We were with that agency for about a year. And then we decided that perhaps there might be other agencies that could offer more for the children. And we discovered NFA. We discovered it because I'm a teacher, as I said. And a little girl came to my class last September, and she was being fostered by a lady who used to work for the school. And she said, "I know someone who knows you." And lo and behold, it was the social worker who had assessed us as a freelance social worker who'd gone to be a lecturer, had come back into social work and started working for NFA.
Oh,
And
wow.
so we gave him a call, and we talked about what we would like, and what we liked about the sound of NFA. And so he then said, "Well, why don't you transfer?" So it's a really strange, how these things connect
Yeah,
together. Had that little
definitely.
girl not come to my classroom, we would never have really gone to the NFA probably.
Yeah, the world works in mysterious ways, doesn't it? So, can you remember what it was like when you were waiting for your first child to come and live with you? Because have you had three different children live with you? Is that right? What was it like that first time?
Yeah, we've had three children with us. before our kind of long term placement, which we're enjoying now. And that time waiting for a placement and waiting for the referrals team to get in touch with you is it can be quite a long it can be quite a long wait at times. You know, sometimes it's just a case of there's not anyone coming through that's quite the right match for you. And then you'll get a referral and you'll kind of look at everything that the social workers are telling you, and you'll think, oh, this would be a fantastic child to match with. And then you put yourselves forward and you don't hear anything more because, you know, unfortunately, you weren't the best match, but fortunately, I guess there's a better match for that child somewhere else. So you kind of, you know, you long to get to know some of these children who you perhaps talked about and build up a picture of, but you have to sort of be resilient and let those children go and kind of move on to the next one when they come. You have to trust that the best matches are being made, you know, and sometimes that's yourself and sometimes it's somebody else.
And when you're waiting for a child to arrive, Robert, what are the thoughts and feelings like? And what are the practicalities as well of like getting the house ready? Like, what's it like?
We always ask lots and lots of questions, because obviously you're not usually going to meet, or we certainly haven't met any children that we've had before they arrive at the house. Apart from our most recent one, actually, which was a little bit of a different situation, so we had a little bit more notice on that move, actually. But initially, at any rate, you were asking lots and lots of questions, and it's a bit like buying a new house, and you fall in love with your new house, and you go over and over the details, you know, where you kind of say, there's there, you know, we can put that there, we put that there, and you know, and with the children, it's like, oh wow, they love Lego and they love playing sports, and a lot of it actually resonates with your own childhood. You pick out those bits that you kind of go, I used to love doing that as well, and if I was that child coming here and I was that age, I would love this in my room. So you start kind of laying the groundwork for creating a really welcoming space for them and kind of getting all the toiletries and things like that. But obviously you don't want to do everything because that's also part of your family building together, to do that as a family and to add things to the bedroom and to the house. So, and also the children are going to bring lots of things with them, we find as well. So you want to leave space for them to be able to bring what they already have and their lives and their memories and experiences with them as well. So it's kind of a balance really, but just finding out as much information as possible and building on that as you go.
Yeah, and you talked there, Robert, about building a family. You know, even when you have respite placements come to live with you, do you still feel like instantly they are part of your family?
Yeah, I think the more experienced we've become, the more we have felt that. And we recently had a young lad who just turned 10 shortly after we had him for respite, and that was a really lovely placement. We had him for a long weekend, and he did instantly feel like part of our family. He invited us along to his 10th birthday party, which we went along to, and then subsequent to that, we actually went on one of the wonderful NFA event days where they'd put on tubing, which I don't know if you've ever tried that, but it's good fun. I
Yeah.
recommend it. We'd never tried it before, which is one of the lovely things about the events the NFA do, because you try things you've never thought of doing before. So we took him along to that as a bit more respite for his carers, and you know, he's actually now moved across the country to a children's home, but we're still in touch with him, you know, and when we're that way in the country, you know, we will stop by and visit him as well. But we write to him and we send him sort of packages and things, just to let him know that, you know, the fact that he's moved, it's not the end of his story. He's still part of our family, you know, as long as he wants to be.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, isn't it? Your network becomes really, really big. We always say that on the podcast. And, sometimes it's not always appropriate to stay in touch, but most of the time it is, isn't it? And your family just
Mm.
becomes bigger and bigger. Just for anybody listening, Robert, who's maybe not sure about what respite care is, what are some of the reasons that a child might need respite foster care?
Well, this we've had a couple of different reasons actually. This lad came to us because his foster carers over that weekend were having some work done to the house. They were going to have their roof repaired,
Oh, right.
and they
Okay.
needed to clear the loft out and do really boring kind of house stuff. And it was just a case of this is going to be a really dull weekend for him to keep him busy and occupied while we need to get on with this. So we stepped in. And another respite that we had was a 16 and a half year old girl and her family. She had quite a large foster family, and the family had a biological child as well. And her carers, very fortunate for them, had 3 holidays a year. They'd have a holiday with everybody, with their biological child and their foster children, and they'd go off somewhere. And then they would have a holiday just with their biological children. And then they would have a third holiday just for two carers. And so, obviously, when you have a setup like that, everyone's included in the parts that they do. That's the system that they have. I know some carers might feel like they would always want to take their child on holiday with them. Sometimes that's possible, sometimes it's not possible. Um, but if you've got that system in place, that you organise it in the way that your family understand it and it works for your family, then that's an opportunity that respite carers can step in.
And now, of course, you've got a child living with you on a longer term basis, haven't you? So tell us about them.
Well, it's a real surprise actually, because we always thought, particularly with my experience with younger children, we always thought, yeah, reception age children, 4, 5, 6, 7, something like that, in that age range, that kind of infant school kind of age. And to be honest, we were a bit scared about older children, about teenagers, the terrible teenagers, as people might think. Um, but it was actually having those respites and having the opportunity to have those slightly older children for a short time, where we knew, do you know what, it's a long weekend, it's a couple of weeks here, and a bit here and a bit there. And we thought, why not give it a go? And we loved it. It really, really fitted. And compared to having a child for respite who was a lot younger in our actual kind of expectation, where we thought, that's the kind of child for us. We kind of thought about the two, and we were thinking, do you know what? Actually, um, it's much better fit for us to have a slightly older child, and we love that. He's 12 today, turning 13 tomorrow. Um, so we
Wow.
will have a teenager on our hands, and we couldn't be happy with him. Really, he's amazing. He came to us because his carers, who he'd been with for 7 years, were retiring. They decided that they needed to retire, which people do for various reasons, and so he's come to us, which we're delighted about.
And do you think that's an important part of fostering, Robert, to go into it with an open mind? You thought you were going to do one type of fostering with one type of age group, and you've ended up doing something completely different. Is it important to always keep that open mind?
It is really important to always keep an open mind with fostering. And our supervising social worker, who is now actually the person that originally did our assessment, so we're really happy about that. That's wonderful. He kind of got to know us. I think he got to know us better than we know ourselves, to be honest, after all of the sessions, which, as you say, are very much like therapy. We hear that an awful lot, but it's true. And we really enjoyed all of those sort of sessions going through. And we learned things about each other through that process as well that we never knew. Kind of, oh gosh, I never knew that. And, you know, um, and he always knew that we would be really, really happy with some older children. But he was like, I'm just going to let you find this out and discover this for yourself. But I think he definitely gave us the opportunities with those older children because he knew that that they would be a real strength with us.
What do you see for yourself and your husband in the future? Do you see yourself fostering for a long time to come, Robert?
Well, as I said, our little boy now, not so little, he's almost taller than me. He's 13 tomorrow. And I think when you have a child that comes from a 7-year placement where the carers are retiring, I think we really go into that with our eyes open and say to ourselves, do you know what? He's nearly 13. We need to be prepared, all health being well and everything, as far as we can, we need to be prepared to have him until he's 18 at least. If he still needs us while he's 18, up until that point.
And it sounds like, Robert, you've had a lot of support since you've been with the National Fostering Group, and it's been a really positive experience for you, particularly coming full circle and having that social worker come back into your life. Do you find that, there's always someone there to support you if you need it?
Yeah, the NFA have been really supportive. The events that they do, the things that they put on for the children, the support groups that they have, which sadly I don't get to go to many of those because I'm at work as a teacher, but my husband does get to go to those, and he finds them really useful to get together with other carers over, a drink or some lunch. And I say a drink because he doesn't drink tea or coffee, but he'll have an orange juice along with everybody else. And those tend to happen during the day when the children perhaps are at school or in college. And then there's events that happen at weekends and in the holidays. So we went to 3 events this summer. And that was a really nice opportunity for me to see some of the other social workers and some of the other carers. We went go-karting. We all had a great time with that. I was obviously very speedy around the track, lapping everybody a few times, and our little boy loved that. I obviously never had an opportunity to drive before, so he's quite excited about being able to learn to drive when he's 17. We also went to a bush adventure day. So these are things that you wouldn't necessarily go and book just for yourself and your 2 parents and 1 child. But there's lots of other like-minded people there. So we learned how to light a fire with all the proper tools and gather wood and everything. We built dens, and we also had to go axe throwing, which I know is probably,
Wow.
you might think, is that really what you want to be teaching everybody to do? But it is actually really hard to do. The children, actually, on the whole, I think were a lot better than the adults. And then we also had a lovely time at the fun day that the NFA put on in our area every year over in a local village. And there were bouncy castles there for the children. There was some gorgeous donkeys to pet, and food, drinks, cakes and things. It was just lovely. We actually won a couple of prizes in the raffle. So it was the kind of topped the day off with a real sort of excitement.
Yeah. And there's a real community there, isn't there? Do you find that there's a lot of support from your peers as well, from other foster carers?
Yeah, it was really lovely because as soon as we arrived, we weren't standing there feeling awkward. Some people came straight over to us and they recognised David from the support group. David, that's my husband, and so they were kind of catching up. And it's another funny situation really about the small world of fostering. In my work as a teacher, we had a little boy at our school who moved across the country actually for whatever reason. And these people came and introduced themselves to me because I hadn't met them before. And they introduced me to their foster child and, didn't think anything of it. And then later on, they said to me, "Oh yeah, he's just come back to Norfolk from wherever he was," and I sort of said his name, and I said, "Did he used to go to?" And I talked about my school, and they said, "Yes, he did." I said, "I know him."
Wow.
So he'd gone away, across the country and come all the way back. And I said, you know, it's me. I didn't ever teach him, so I didn't have a really close relationship with him, but he was such a friendly, amazing young man that every time I would go into the lunch hall, you know, it was always big waves and smiles, and he always
Yeah.
chat away to me. So that was really nice, you know, to be reintroduced. And I think that makes you realize that actually, you know, these children are people that have a multifaceted life and that can come back into your life at any moment.
Yeah.
You know, they're not just a kind of a, oh, we had that child and now we don't have that. We don't know that child anymore.
Yeah.
You know, they are just like anybody else in your life where you make an acquaintance and you could well bump into them
Yeah,
again.
absolutely. So, Robert, for anybody listening or watching who might be thinking about, becoming a foster carer or thinking, is it for me? Is it for us? How would you encourage them to go for it?
Well, you've got to start with that, you know, making that contact over the website or calling the phone number and just having a chat and just saying, look, this is what I can offer. Because this is, as you know, we started with that respite and that's really, really valuable. Sometimes it's like I said, for the DIY around the house or the holiday, or it might be because actually that child is really, really experiencing or has experienced some real trauma there, which means that their behavior can be quite dysregulated. And actually, in order to help regulate that behavior and to help support the carers and to support them to perhaps not kind of coming down with that kind of compassion fatigue where you become very, very exhausted and unable to really give your full support. Actually, there are some children that would need that regular break in order to be able to maintain a really, really stable placement at other times. And we've always been told the children love coming to respite. Um, Generally, they love it because it's like a little holiday for them, you know, and and that's definitely what it's been like for us. And we've, you know, enjoyed it on that basis.
Yeah.
So you might only be able to offer a bit of respite. It's not just a bit, you know, it's a really valuable thing to be able to offer. Or you might find that actually you've got a place in your home on a longer term basis. But until you start talking with the staff at NFA, you're not going to know exactly what you can offer or where your skills can fit necessarily.
Yeah, and it sounds like fostering has had such an impact on yours and your husband's lives. How would you sum it up, Robert? How incredible has it been for you?
Well, it's not always easy. You know, sometimes, you know, you're thinking about the adaptations that you've made to your life, and, you know, you're not necessarily just kind of relaxing of a weekend and just watching your kind of TV programs that you might have done before whenever you feel like it and all that kind of stuff. You know, there are certain changes that you need to be able to make to your life, but actually, when you remind yourself about the the experiences that these young people have had in their life through no fault of their own, you know, perhaps with families that have faced real difficulties, traumas, and potentially abuse as well, you kind of go, actually, we're making a huge difference here. And we sometimes remind each other of that when we're having those days where one is feeling a bit more stretched, maybe. We kind of go, you know, we're doing a really good job here. We're making a big difference to this person's life. And we talk all the time to him about the fact that he is part of our family. Um, he would he would come to the living room in the morning and say, "Oh, can I have some breakfast?" And I said, "Of course you can." And he'd say, "Oh, what can I have?" And so there's Weetabix or Wheatos or toast or crumpets or whatever. And he, being nearly 13, would go and get that sorted. And I sat there and I thought, you know, I'm not happy about you asking for breakfast like that. So I went up to her and said, I need to have a firm word with you. I said, "Oh, what? Well, this is your house. You don't need to ask to have
Yeah.
breakfast. There will always be breakfast available for
Yeah.
you. If you want to ask what there is that you can have, that's fine. But you never need to ask to go to the toilet. You never need to ask to have breakfast, because that is something that, as I said, that's always available for you." Um, so it's just things like that where you just, you know, and you have the ups and downs with a person who's nearly a teenager. They, you know, set the boundaries in place and they say, "Oh, I want to do this and I want to do that." And perhaps they have a bit of a grump. And I think, given his experience, every time anything like that happens, I think in the back of his mind, it's like, well, I was with my last carers for 7 years. Is this going to end? And so it's that reassurance. This isn't going to end just because we've had to talk about this or because we've had to talk about that.
Mhm.
We are a family, and families up and down the land are having the exact same conversations about, not having a packet of sweets at 8:30 in the evening.
Oh, well, Robert, it's been so wonderful speaking to you today. And I'm aware that you and your husband have quite the hidden talents, don't you? Because you actually write stories, don't you, for children?
We do. So we have um, we write and illustrate them and publish them ourselves. Um, and our publishers called Hummy Press. We have 3 books in print. Itch the Witch and a Chicken Called Chad, Itch the Witch and Her Daughter Switch, and Spooky Duke the Book, Volume 1. But we also have lots of free audio stories on our website, www.hummypress.co.uk. That's Hummy, like mummy, but with an H. And we have the 3 stories on our website because we know that not everybody can afford to go and buy books. Not everyone can get out to the library. So we wanted to have something there available for children to listen to and enjoy, or families to listen to and enjoy together. Along with those stories, we actually also have a lovely story that we've just launched on the website called Weaver and the Wallbanger. And it's quite close to our heart, actually, with what we're doing at the moment, because it's got a real theme of fostering to it. Meg is a child who is fostered, and she makes friends with Weaver and the Wallbanger, who are aliens based on our cats. And unfortunately, Meg does move across the country, and Weaver and the Wallbanger are really upset because they can't find her to start with, but they track her down. And that's the story all about the fact that families are very different, and actually
Yeah.
family can be the people that you choose and the people that do special things for you, even if you might not be related to them directly. So that's a really special one that we've enjoyed sharing with people.
Yeah, we will be talking more about that in a future episode. So yeah, really, really looking forward to hearing more about it. But for now, Robert, thank you so much for talking to us today. It's been really, really lovely to hear your story, and best of luck with the future.
Thanks, Helen. Thanks for having me. It's been a real pleasure to join you.
Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Voices of Fostering. If you'd like to find out more, head online and search National Fostering Group and make this the year you foster.